Bradley Jansen comes set and deals. Swing and a line drive off the glove of Seager and out into center field. Here comes Swanson, and the Braves win it. Rosario the hero. Oh boy, Eddie Rosario, an absolute bullet. Back up the middle, Swanson scores, and the Braves victorious.
John Shambi called it on ESPN Radio as Eddie Rosario drove home Dansby Swanson with a game-winning single in the bottom of the ninth. And the Braves beat the Dodgers 5-4 in Game 2 of the NLCS. The Braves have won the first 2 games of the season with walk-off hits, becoming just the 4th team in postseason history to win Games 1 and 2 of a playoff series in walk-off fashion. Game 3 is Tuesday in Los Angeles.
Max.
Meanwhile, Game 3 of the ALCS is tonight as the Red Sox and Astros are tied at 1 game apiece. Coverage begins at 7:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio. On Sunday Night Football, T.J. Watt's strip sack of Seahawks quarterback Geno Smith in the waning minutes of overtime led to a game-winning field goal from Chris Boswell, and the Steelers beat Seattle 23-20 on Sunday Night Football. There was a scary moment in the fourth quarter when Seahawks defensive end Darrell Taylor was taken off on a stretcher and his neck had to be immobilized. Taylor was down near midfield for several minutes. Coach Pete Carroll said after the game that CT scans were negative and that Taylor was moving his extremities. Allie Quigley scored 26 points and Candace Parker added 16 points, 13 boards, and 5 assists as the Chicago Sky beat the Phoenix Mercury 80-74 in Game 4 to clinch the franchise's first WNBA championship. Chicago's Kalia Copper was named WNBA Finals MVP. I'll be talking about these stories and more on This Just In today at 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. SportsCenter is brought to you by Indeed. Hiring for an open job shouldn't morph into a full-time job. Indeed is the smart hiring platform that delivers 4 times more hires than all other sites combined, according to Talent Nest. Post a job and hire ASAP. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
When he went no huddle and they started to make plays.
All the big games, but light on time? Let us catch you up.
Definitely not fun ever playing against no huddle offense.
Let's run the no huddle.
Whether you huddle, whether you don't huddle, it still comes down to just the execution.
All right, guys. It's time for no huddle. You heard it on Keyshawn, Jay, Will, and Max. Let's get right into it. Patrick Mahomes threw 2 interceptions in the first half, including one really, weirdly bad one at the end of the half with the Chiefs in field goal range. But Mahomes bounced back in the second with 2 second-half touchdown passes and led another touchdown drive. So what gave him the confidence to keep pushing the ball? I don't know, maybe being the most talented athlete who ever lived. Here's what Patrick Mahomes said after the game.
I think the biggest thing was the guys kept believing in me. I think that was a big thing to me. I mean, Orlando, Travis, Tyreek, all those guys came right up to me and they're like, "You keep being you. Like we know you're competing. We know who you are. Don't let that one thing affect how you play." And you saw it in the second half. I kept doing stuff, kept throwing across my body and doing all that different type of stuff because I know those guys believe in me, and I'm gonna keep being that and keep fighting to the end.
And that's what Patrick Mahomes has to do. He has to continue to just keep playing and doing the things that got him to be the MVP, got him Super Bowl appearances and championships. Don't allow something that went wrong in the first half affect you throughout the course of the game. Short-term memory, he certainly had it yesterday.
After all this talk about Kansas City, and I mean, what does that say about Washington's defense? We'll get into that discussion a little bit later, giving up multiple games of 30-plus points. But Kansas City sitting at 3-3. All the talk, write them off. They're done. 3-3. Just saying.
Just keep in mind about Patrick Mahomes. He was always a mix of not just Rodgers, but Brett Favre. He was the gunslinger who didn't turn the ball over, but he still got that gunslinger in him. I mean, that's part of who he is. All right. With the Jaguars winning in London, the Lions have the longest, at this moment, active losing streak in the NFL. Detroit lost 34-11 to the Bengals for their 10th straight loss dating back to last season. At least they have all those playoff wins in the last 60. Oh, wait, no, they don't have that either.
Wow.
Now head coach Dan Campbell is challenging quarterback Jared Goff. Guys, does this sound familiar? Listen to Coach.
I will say this. I don't feel like we can accurately judge him one way or another. I don't feel that way yet. Now, I will say this. I feel like he needs to step up more than he has. And I think he needs to help us, just like everybody else. And I think he's going to need to put a little bit of weight on his shoulders here, and it's time to step up, make some throws, and do some things. But he needs help. He needs help.
Not bad observation by his coach. I think that's the same thing that Sean McVay out in L.A. saw in Jared Goff, is that it's not all on him, but he certainly is a quarterback, and when you're the quarterback of a football team, it falls on your shoulders, and he's got to be the guy that helped carry the Detroit Lions to a victory, and that hasn't happened thus far.
It's just crazy when you're watching that game and you have an understanding of everything that happened between Jared Goff and Sean McVay and the reason why he got to Detroit in the first place. And I'm sitting there, Max, and I'm watching Joe Burrow, and I'm saying, this is why you want Joe Burrow. This is why you don't want Jared Goff.
Guys, to me, this is alarm bells. Dude was the number 1 overall pick, went to 2 Pro Bowls, went to a Super Bowl. McVay was making him look better than he really was, it seems to me. Now he's on his second stop, and for the second time, a coach is like, dude, you got to start playing better. Like, after this, there's no more starting job right away for Jared Goff. He would have to earn it. He goes from franchise number 1 overall to he's a backup somewhere. I mean, to me, that's a big deal, coach saying that. All right. Guy who he has been on since before this season started. The Raiders capped an emotional week with a 34-24 victory over the Broncos. In the first game since John Gruden's resignation and their first game with Rich Bisaccia as interim head coach, the Raiders snapped a 2-game skid with a much-needed win. Here is Key's dude, Derek Carr.
There'll be a time for the emotions of all of that, but now's not the time. We have time. If anything, what this did is brought us brought us closer with talking with the guys and meetings and all that kind of stuff. Proud of where we're at and glad for our organization to get a win. We needed a win bad this week. Sometimes when you get punched in the gut, it's hard to bounce back, but we were able to do it. So we definitely needed it. We got one, and it definitely feels good.
Yeah, I'm happy for Rich Bisaccia, a former special teams coach with me in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But I felt all along once John Gruden was gone out of the locker room, they would rally and play the way that they played. You certainly seen guys step up and play much better. These sort of situations make you play loose. Instead of playing uptight and tense all the time, you can go out there and just ball out without having to worry about repercussions of some negative stuff going on your sideline. I think at the end of the day, they did exactly what I thought they would do, get a W.
Yeah, glad they could bounce back. But on the opposite end, you're sitting there looking at the Broncos, and everybody was saying, oh, well, they're 3-0. And you're like, well, hold on a second. Those wins were against the Giants, the Jets, and the Jags. Now they've lost their last 3. Not so much hype so much around the Denver Broncos anymore.
Meantime, I think there are 2 things here. One, Derek Carr, that's an easy situation to step in if you have a close relationship with the coach and they get in trouble like that. He managed to navigate that really well, said all the right things, and then went out and played really well. And Bisaccia, I think you get a bounce if you lose a head coach who stepped in it